fans of the Chicago Bulls, welcome to this rather late edition of the Bulls Corner. I am ridiculously over Anthony Florio, taking over the hosting duties tonight, joined by my partner in crime and fellow Chicago Bulls fan, Michael Fletcher. We tried to do this a couple of hours ago. We were going to do a remote feed for the first time ever, as Michael Fletcher was out karaokeing with his 2184 crew at the Cathay Pearl Chinese restaurant in Swansea, Massachusetts. Great food, by the way. I've been there with the family a lot of times, and their food is delish, to say the very least. And enough of that. But we had some audio difficulties. Michael Fletcher couldn't hear me, unfortunately, and we had to push this back. But thankfully, as of when it comes to early morning, neither one of us have work commitments, so that works out great for us. So even though Fletch does have work commitments, but it's much later in the day, thankfully. So all right. So without further ado, Fletch can hear us now. We can hear him. So we're all good to go here. So Bulls Corner is here. It's now, and oh boy, we're gonna have some fun with this show. We're gonna recap an epic Game 3 of the Eastern Conference first round playoff series between your Chicago Bulls and the Milwaukee Bucks. It wasn't over in one overtime. It took two overtimes. But at the end of the night, when all the dust settled and all the Shakespearean drama ended, it was your Chicago Bulls who got the job done one more time. They defeat the Milwaukee Bucks tonight, 113-106 in double overtime, and now lead the best of 7 series 3-0. Oh, if only this was a best of 5 series like it was in the old days. This would have been an open and shut series. But they changed it to best of 7 in 2003, and because of that, they have to get one more. And hey, that's fine. And there's nothing like doing these shows after a win. I mean, I said it when we did our last Ranger Roundup. Same thing with the Bulls Corner. It's always much more fun after a win. And here we are with another win, 3-0, the lead. They will look to close it out on Saturday evening at 5:30 tip-off for Game 4. That'll be on Saturday. And we'll get into that in a little bit. And of course, major future content coming up. But for right now, let's dive right into the numbers here from Game 3. Of course, 27 all after the first quarter, 53-49 Milwaukee at the half, 75-71. 74-71 Chicago after 3. Regulation wasn't enough. They were tied at 95. After the first overtime, it was 101. It was tied at 101. And then in the second overtime, the Chicago Bulls would outscore the Milwaukee Bucks 12-5 for a 113-106 win. And here you go. Here come the numbers. Derrick Rose leads the way for the Chicago Bulls. 34 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds, 48 minutes and 13 seconds of time. Right behind, Jimmy Butler, 24 points, only 3 rebounds and 2 assists. He did that in 53 minutes and 1 second of time. Pau Gasol, 17 points, 14 rebounds, 12 of them on the defensive side, 41 minutes and 8 seconds he went. Tony Snell, wow, what a great game he had. 16 points in 27 minutes of action. Mike Dunleavy Jr., a former Duke product, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists in nearly 30 minutes. And Kirk Heinrich finally managed to get back in there. He's been battling some injuries, only went about 6 minutes. And for Derrick Rose, it was his first time playing at least 45 or more minutes in a playoff game since the 2011 Eastern Conference Finals against the once known overhypes that were the Miami Heat. And then on the Milwaukee side of things, Giannis Antetokounmpo led the way for Milwaukee, 25 points and 12 rebounds in 51 minutes and 17 seconds. And then you had Michael Carter-Williams, formerly of Syracuse, 19 points and 9 assists, 43 minutes and 23 seconds of action. John Henson, chipped in 15 and 14 rebounds in 38 minutes and 52 seconds. And Jared Dudley, 11 and 1 assist in 20 and a half minutes of action. And Middleton had 18 with 7 assists and 3 rebounds in about 49 minutes of action. Chicago shot 45% from the field. Milwaukee 42.2. The rebounding edge, even. Both teams 50-50. Both teams had 50 rebounds each. Both nearly even in assists. Chicago 25 assists. Milwaukee had 24. And 3-point shooting, that went in favor of the Chicago Bulls big time. 42.4%, 14 out of 33 on that count. Milwaukee, 6 out of 19 for a dismal 31.6%. Free throw edge, all Chicago there as well. 79.2% from the free throw line, 19 out of 24. Milwaukee was only 14 out of 25 for a total of 56%. And, time of the game, 2 hours, 43 minutes. In front of 18,717 fans at the newly named BMO Harris Bradley Center in Milwaukee. 113-106 was the final. And your Chicago Bulls, 1 win away from moving on to the second round of the NBA playoffs, where they would meet the winner of the series between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics. That looks like that could be an open and shut series. Well, probably will be an open and shut series, as the Cleveland Cavaliers took care of the Boston Celtics tonight, 103-95 at TD Garden. They have a 3-0 stranglehold on that series, and they will look to close out that series on Sunday afternoon. I think that's going to be a 3:30 game on ABC on Sunday afternoon. So we could be on the verge, 1 win away, both sides. We could be on the verge of one of the more anticipated playoff series in recent memory in the Eastern Conference anyway. A possible matchup with the Chicago Bulls and the Cleveland Cavaliers. But we'll dive into that, once we get to that bridge. But we still got Milwaukee on our minds, just as Cleveland has. Boston still on their minds. So I'm going to switch it up here. I want to get Michael Fletch's thoughts on this. I mean, I know he watched the game while he was karaokeing with his 2184 crew at the Pearl in Swansea. So Fletch, I know you saw the game. I know they have TVs up there. I've been there. I know they have a big TV set up there. My father knows the owner of the place very well. A good friend of his, John, the owner. He's very close with him. He's close to all of us in our family. So Fletch, while I know you were karaokeing with the 2184 crew and all. What were your thoughts, on the game? And after all those numbers I just crunched, I mean, Derrick Rose, man. I mean, what can you say about him? Like, your thoughts on the game overall?
First off, the game itself was absolutely crazy. I was going absolutely mental, losing my mind. I mean, it was back and forth. It went, there was some opportunities where Milwaukee definitely could have won this game tonight. There was definitely opportunities that Chicago could have won this game tonight. I mean, this was Milwaukee's best chance of trying to get themselves back into the series. And unfortunately, Chicago just had enough plays, enough offensive plays and defensive plays. But you know what? Tonight, the story is Derrick Rose. In the big moments when it mattered the most, he came up so clutch. And this is why he's the former MVP and definitely the heart and soul of the Chicago Bulls roster. There was a moment where he did take a hit. He went down right before he was supposed to shoot 2 free throws. He missed the first one, got the second one. Milwaukee had a chance to win it in regulation. That didn't go their way. And I mean, you want to talk about back and forth Shakespearean drama, especially in the overtime period. It was absolutely craziness the entire game. It looked like Chicago definitely had a stranglehold, especially after a major third quarter where they definitely ran it out, winning the quarter 25-18, and looked like they got things in hand. and it looked like everything was all done. But Milwaukee made a great run towards the end, got it down to a striking distance where I mean we all got it was like 90, it was almost like 95, 4 point seconds left, and just a bad possession by Milwaukee that led to the first overtime period. Then Milwaukee and Chicago traded buckets in the first overtime period. Chicago had a chance to win it, but a big misfortune. Jimmy Butler went for a shot, back ironed it. We went to a second overtime, and I was and one of the guys was actually he's like, hey, you keep pacing up and down. What's going on? Yeah, well, it's like you're gonna walk into a ditch. It's like you're gonna create a ditch or something down here. I kind of gave him a glare, like, don't bother me right now. I'm in game mode. I'm focused on my Chicago Bulls. But that second overtime was all about Derrick Rose, man. He just took the team in it on his back. He's like, here, guys, let me take you to the promised land. And sure enough, he did. I mean, what a game he had. Uh, Definitely the best game of the entire series he's had all season long. A lot of people were worried about him, especially with all these minutes, all the rest. And remember, there was one they lost a guy. One guy was unable to play. Nico Mirotic was a no go. He didn't play tonight. Heinrich came off the bench, only played 6 minutes, so he really wasn't that big of a contributor. But I mean, give it up to guys like Tony Snell, Jimmy Butler, Noah. He had a big rebounding game. We needed him to be huge. He was huge. Um, Pau Gasol, a double double. You actually a double double. 17 and 14 for him. Dunleavy, I mean, his 3 point shooting was so clutch tonight. He hit 4 of 6 from the 3 point stripe. But again, Jimmy Butler, great game from him, 24 points. But Derrick Rose is the man of the night, 34 points, 12 of 23 shooting, almost 50% from the field. His 3 point accuracy, 5 of 9, and he was missed or clutch in the free throw line too. But like I said, he could have iced the game. We could have had this in the bag before, without going into overtime. But he did miss one clutch free throw at the end. But hats off to Milwaukee for playing such a tough game. Uh, Epenenko, 25 points, like you said, and then of course Henson and Dudley, 15 and 11 respectively. Carter Williams and Chris Middleton. Middleton absolutely torched Chicago in game two, and he had a very equally good performance tonight. Um, Turnover wise, I think Chicago's got to clean that up a little bit. But I mean, the entire night, the entire game itself was unbelievable, full of Shakespearean drama. Definitely not only the best game in the series, but definitely probably the best game in the entire postseason. But I think, based off what we saw with Golden State and New Orleans, I think a lot of people are going to beg to differ on that as well. But what a game! What a game tonight!
Yes, indeed, and it was indeed a fantastic game, to say the very least. To be honest with you, I'm usually more invested in the Stanley Cup playoffs than in the NBA playoffs, but I still love the NBA playoffs. I mean, they're still a fun watch, and I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't really tune into the game until I got a text from Michael Fletcher saying that the game was in overtime, and I'm like, oh boy, I better get my ass over there now, and that's exactly what I did. Um, of course, I watched the SmackDown first because SmackDown I was in Providence that Michael Fletcher got to attend. Lucky him. Uh, I saw all the photos. Don't worry, Fletch. I saw every single nook and cranny of those photos that you posted on your Facebook. No doubt about it. Saw that, and I look forward to hearing about your experiences come Monday night on the forum. But we'll get more into that in a moment. But nonetheless, I watched the SmackDown from Providence. I was anxious to see how that show turned out on TV. And I must say, it turned out good. And then I tuned into something a little. I tuned into another show after that, that I usually watch on Thursday nights. And then once I was done with that, then I tuned into the game. It was on NBA TV. The great Ian Eagle on the call, one of our favorite announcers. A personal favorite of myself and Michael Fletcher and all of our crew. We love Ian Eagle's body of work, and he was spot on again tonight. Loved his work. And yes, Chicago. I mean, Derrick Rose, what can you say? I mean, this is the Derrick Rose of old. This was Derrick Rose that was the MVP in 2011. That, when the Chicago Bulls had that magical season in 2011 when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, only to lose to the Miami Heat, unfortunately. But, it is what it is. And, D Rose was, he put the team on his back tonight. Jimmy Butler, another solid game out of him. Pau Gasol, I mean, I like his body of work as well. And Noah had 12 rebounds despite only having 2 points. I mean, he did have a dozen boards, so that definitely helps. And Tony Snell, I mean, I've talked about this many times before, and I'm going to do it again. Unsung heroes. I mean, how much do you love unsung heroes in any sports playoffs? I mean, we saw it in the Stanley Cup playoffs, with our New York Rangers. I mean, Kevin Hayes. We didn't expect him to score that winning goal against the Pittsburgh Penguins the other night, did we? No. But he scored it anyway. And that's why the New York Rangers have a 3-1 stranglehold on the Pittsburgh Penguins in their first round Stanley Cup playoff series. And don't forget, tomorrow night, of course, the Ranger Roundup. We'll get into that in just a moment. But nonetheless, I mean, Milwaukee closed out that regulation with an 11-0 run. And, they tied the game. And I tell you what, I mean, this Milwaukee Bucks team, I mean, Jason Kidd did a great job with this team this year. A 500 record, got into the postseason. This is a great young team that I think could be dark horses in the Eastern Conference for years to come. I really do. I know all the hooplas about, Atlanta and Cleveland and our Chicago Bulls, of course, and but maybe even Washington, based on what they've been doing against Toronto. But nonetheless, I mean, what can you say about these Chicago Bulls, man? I mean, Derrick Rose, putting the team on his back, and Jimmy Butler. I mean, this young man has been wowing me. I mean, Fletch told me about Jimmy Butler, and I got to tell you, I mean, now I know why Fletch loves Jimmy Butler so much. That's why he calls him Jimmy Buckets, for God's sake. I mean, he had himself another great game tonight, and in some eyes, maybe even us, Milwaukee probably should have won this game tonight. But I tell you what, man, I'll admit it. I watched the entire second overtime of this game, and I'll tell you, that was the most dominant team performance I ever saw in any period from a Bulls team, from a Chicago Bulls team in a long time. I mean, they took control from the opening tip of that overtime. Derrick Rose made a couple of circus shots. Pau Gasol had a throwdown dunk with authority. I mean, Milwaukee looked out of gas, lost, lackadaisical, deers in the headlights, if you will. And that is why they are now staring at an 0-3 deficit in this first round series. Boy, do we wish it was a best-of-5 series. If it was a best-of-5 series, this series would have been over. But since, of course, 2003, when they made first-round series best-of-7, well, series not over. We still have one more to go. And that's on Saturday. Saturday evening, 5:30 tip-off on TNT. And what can you say? Chicago looks to close it out. And here comes the most alarming stat. In Major League Baseball, we saw in 2004 the Boston Red Sox come back from an 0-3 deficit to beat the New York Yankees in the American League Championship Series, what many are calling the greatest ALCS of all time. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's been done 4 times. The best success rate of any. 1942, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Detroit Red Wings. Maple Leafs came back from 0-3 down, beat the Detroit Red Wings, and won the Stanley Cup in 1942. 1975, it was the New York Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Of course, in 2010, maybe the most heartbreaking of them all, the Philadelphia Flyers came back from an 0-3 deficit to beat the Boston Bruins in the second round. And then, of course, last year, the eventual Stanley Cup champions, the Los Angeles Kings, they would come back from an 0-3 deficit against the San Jose Sharks in the opening round. No team in the history of the NBA playoffs has ever come back from an 0-3 deficit. When a team has gone up 3-0, Michael Fletcher, listen to this. You know what the record of those teams are? 110-0. That's right. 110-0. What do you think about that?
You know, sometimes the thing is that the way, and here's the thing, because remember, there's right now 2 series out there. I think there's actually, no, nay, let me rephrase that. There's 3 series out there that's right now at 3-0. Cleveland and Boston,
Yep.
of course, Chicago and Milwaukee,
Yep.
and now you got to add Golden State and New Orleans.
Yes.
They're all 3-0. Now, here's the thing. If you really think about Bulls fans, I kind of felt like tonight was Milwaukee's best shot of getting back into the series. If they did not win this game, I'm sorry, this series is over. I'm calling it right now. I think this is over. It doesn't matter if this ends in 4 or 5. I think Chicago's gonna put this away. I think they're just gonna put the nail in the coffin. If it's not the next game, it will be back in the UC.
Well, I agree. No question about that. I do agree with you on that, Michael Fletcher. No question about that. Definitely tonight was Milwaukee's best chance, especially in front of the home crowd of the Bradley Center. And yeah, I mean, they went toe-to-toe for 5 quarters, if you will. But that 6th quarter, they did not show up at all. It was all Chicago, like I said. And that's why the Chicago Bulls are 1 win away from a possible second-round showdown with LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And what would be one of the most anticipated Eastern Conference playoff series, probably since the 2011 Eastern Conference Finals, when the Chicago Bulls went up against, LeBron, D-Wade, Bosh, and that overhyped, overrated, hot mess that was the Miami Heat. But nonetheless, I mean, a Chicago-Cleveland second-round series, oh my goodness. Oh boy, we would definitely have some major fun with that once that thing becomes official. I mean, remember, Cleveland also has a 3-0 stranglehold on Boston, and they will look to close it out on the parquet floor on Sunday afternoon on ABC. I believe that's a 3:30 tip-off, I do believe. And then, like you said, Golden State. What a game that was tonight against the New Orleans Pelicans. So Golden State now, 3-0 stranglehold on that series. The team that many feel are the odds-on favorites to win the NBA championship, myself included. But nonetheless, great game tonight. If you like Shakespearean drama, I mean, who says that the Stanley Cup playoffs are the only playoffs that can have Shakespearean drama? Hey, NBA playoffs can have it too, and we saw a lot of it tonight. I mean, yeah, Cleveland and Boston didn't go to overtime, but still, it was a damn fun game, man. The other 2 games, our game, and then Golden State and New Orleans. Great games tonight, classic games. That's what makes the NBA playoffs just as special as the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's all there is to it. So, and we already have a gone fishing in that. The Winnipeg Jets, they're gone. So they're the first team officially to go fishing when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, all right. So that's going to do it for this. We thank you all so very much for, staying up and tuning in. We were supposed to do this a couple hours ago, but audio difficulties beyond our control. That's why we had to push this back. But I'm glad that we were able to work this out for tonight. I really didn't want to do this by myself, to be honest with you. So in a way, you could say I was desperate. And I'm glad that Michael Fletcher agreed to, come on and do this late. So I'm glad we wanted it, man. So in a way, you could say we worked overtime as well. And quite frankly, I didn't mind it at all. So that'll do it for this. We thank you all so very much for tuning in. Of course, future content coming up. Of course, don't forget, tomorrow night, 10:30, on our colleague Derek Ferrera's channel, SLB 2008-09. A huge edition of Strictly Sports. How huge? Well, it's going to be one of our first 3 big shows. We got the next 3 weeks of Strictly Sports are going to be huge. And this is the first of it. We started off with our 4th annual. That's right, 4th annual Strictly Sports NFL schedule release show. That's it. No power rankings, no Dinkelberg, Noggin Diva BS. No. And all NFL schedule all the time. We will break down our most intriguing matchups from week 1 all the way through week 17. We're going to break down every nook and cranny of that sucker. You better believe that. Of course, if there's enough time for Fletch and I, hopefully we can do the Ranger Roundup. Don't forget Rangers Roundup tomorrow night. Our other team, the New York Rangers, 3-1 stranglehold on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Will we be celebrating? Will we be celebrating our Rangers moving on to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs? We certainly hope so. But, still work to be done. Rangers, of course, coming back home to Madison Square Garden with a chance to put away Pittsburgh Penguins for the 2nd year in a row. And then, that's that. Strictly Sports, NFL schedule release show. And then, of course, Ranger Roundup. We'll have to figure out how we're going to do that. And then, of course, Saturday, there will be another installment. We'll be back on Saturday with our next installment of the Bulls Corner. Once again, question: are we going to celebrate it? Are we going to celebrate a possible sweep here? Will the Chicago Bulls put away the Milwaukee Bucks and move on to the second round of the NBA playoffs and a possible date with LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers? We'll have to wait and see on that. But we'll have to figure out a time for that as well, for the Bulls Corner. And I'm not sure. I don't know how Fletch would feel about this, but maybe we could do a possible Extreme Rules preview, because the Extreme Rules pay-per-view this weekend in Chicago. I know Derek Ferrer was doing a sports blog about that, so we'll figure that out as well. And then Sunday, of course, we'll be on Fletcher's channel because we'll have our Extreme Rules review show. Obviously, I mean, that's it. That's etched in stone. And we could also have another Ranger Roundup. You never know. We could have the Ranger Roundup on Sunday night. That is, if the Pittsburgh Penguins, force a Game 6 in that first round series. But if not, then if the Rangers put it away, then obviously it'll be our Extreme Rules review. And then, of course, Monday night, of course, the Wrestling Forum. We'll review Monday Night Raw, obviously. So very, very busy content on all of the Strictly Sports network of channels. Of course, the number one source, of course, Derek Ferreira, his channel, SLB 2008-09, and his sports blog, sportsblog.com. Check that out. Must read, I must tell you. And then, of course, my channel here, The Tone 25, and also Michael Fletcher's channel, Braves Fan 95. He'll take over the hosting tomorrow night for when we do the Ranger Roundup, whatever time we decide on that. And then Strictly Sports, NFL schedule, man. Oh boy, is that going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait. I mean, that's one of my favorite highlights of the year. We get to our NFL schedule release show with myself, Michael Fletcher, Derek Ferreira, and Michael Bullock. We all get together and talk about our most intriguing matchup from week 1 all the way through week 17 of the NFL schedule. And I cannot wait to get into that. That is going to be so much fun. Definitely looking forward to that. The first of 3 big Strictly Sports shows over the next 3 weeks. I mean, this show, this week, and then next week, of course, next Friday, May 1st, the mega fight. Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao. We're going to break down every nook and cranny of that sucker. Special guest, our friend and colleague, Jimmy Alden. Jimmy Alden is coming. Yes, sir. Jimmy Alden. I had another round of messages with him on Facebook. He's got a Google account. We'll be ready to go. We just about have him set to go for that big show on May 1st, and then on May 8th, we will recap the NFL draft. So, like MVP would always say, big things coming, big thing. And I know Fletch knows the same, but you know where I'm going with it. So, oh boy, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So that's it. So until 10:30 tomorrow night for Strictly Sports NFL schedule release show. It is ridiculously over Anthony Floyer for the Cerebral Viper, Michael Fletcher, saying, you know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up Fortune 4 style. Have a great night, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow night for the NFL schedule release edition of Strictly Sports, and hopefully either before or after the next installment of the Ranger Roundup. Hopefully, we'll be in celebration mode. Fingers crossed. So with that said, bye for now, my friends. God bless, and be good to each other. Have a good night, everybody.